Hi there, and welcome back from the break. Thanks for tuning in to Ladies Can We Talk. We're in our second hour with leading ladies, Mari Sullivan and Lori Medina. I'm going to quick go to our guests, except to say my husband texted me on the break to point out that Constitution Day is actually the 17th, which is Thursday. I just told him we're celebrating early. Today's only the 13th. But really, on Constitution Day, it's such a great thing to spend 10 minutes talking to your kids about why the Constitution matters. But okay, I believe we have on the line Scott Ott. Hello, sir.
Hi, Debbie. How you doing?
Great. So I'm very, very happy you've tuned in, called in. Thanks so much. You know, I have mentioned actually on other shows, just mentioned PJ Media, PJ TV, because you guys do such a brilliant job. And talking through issues are just, all your discussions are so engaging. So just to start with, how'd you ever get the whole thing started, the three of you?
Well, Bill Whittle, Stephen Green, and I got together, I think back in 2009 or 2008. There was a CPAC meeting in Washington, D.C., and we had been sent down there on behalf of PJ TV because we had various roles with the network at that time. And we went out to breakfast one morning, and we were just kicking around the idea of, wouldn't it be great if the three of us had a show together? And we pitched it to the executive producer, and he said, yeah, that sounds like a great idea. Let's do it. And so this show has now been going, I think we're approaching 7 years. And we're making anywhere from 4 to 6 shows a week on the internet.
You know, the one thing you do, I mentioned, I think in one of my Facebook messages to you, is this Trifecta, which I just think is, I don't know why, it just makes me smile, but even when I see one coming up. Trifecta is just you and the other gentleman you mentioned, Bill Whittle and Steve Green, kicking around an issue. And so how do you decide which issues you think people want to hear about?
Well, we do kind of a round-robin hosting thing. It's a panel of 3 people, and while each of us, Bill and Steve and I, each come from a sort of similar ideological perspective, we tend to see things in different ways. We have our individual personalities, and the show can be literally, tear-jerking, emotionally powerful, and then at times it can just be hilarious. And we just try to be as much ourselves as we can be. We find the topics each week by doing probably what you do, what most of your listeners do. We spend a great deal of time reading the news and analyzing it, and basically choose topics that we're interested in.
But you don't know what your other 2 cohorts are going to say when you launch your recording, or you do know?
Now, on Monday, we have a conference call, Monday afternoon, and we basically say, here are the topics that we're going to be doing. And so we just tell each other what topics we've chosen to host our episodes on. And sometimes we kick around, we talk about it a little bit on the conference call. And then the person who's hosting does some writing, but the guys who are answering the questions in general are just, speaking from their hearts. And it's amazing to me, especially when you hear Bill Whittle and Stephen Green and how sharp they are, just how well read they are and how much they understand. Plus, it's a lot of fun.
Oh, it is. I really encourage our listeners to go, if you don't, to check out. And I honestly lose track of the distinctions between PJ Media, PJ TV, and then, but all of them are just so entertaining. And actually, you have memberships. My husband and I both got a membership because he was all saying, "Did you see this?" I said, "No, I can't get that one." So now we both, and it's well worth it. It's not that expensive.
Well, we really appreciate that. And I'll tell you, we just took my daughter out for her 21st birthday dinner, thanks to you and your husband. And people like you, please subscribe.
Well, I swear I'm going to let Lori and Mari get a word in edgewise, but I do want to ask you, my big question in my head is, okay, so now we have 15 months until we have a new president. We have like 13 months till we have the election. What do you see? I mean, you study the news all the time, as I do, and a lot of other people do it. What is the thing that matters most to you, or the top couple of things that will sway voters to move to the conservative side? Like, what are the big issues that ought to wake them up?
Oddly enough, I don't think that what's hot in today's news cycle is necessarily what's going to move people when they walk in to vote. Voting is a very personal thing. And once you step in front of that screen now, it used to be you pull the curtain shut behind you, but these days, most people just step in front of a screen. Once you do that, you're alone with your thoughts and with your future, and in a sense, with the future of your country. And so I think that right now we're in a part of the cycle where everybody thinks they know who it's going to be as far as the nominee, or everybody thinks they know what the main issue is. And you're right. We're a long way out, 13 months or 15 months out. Who knows what's going to happen between now and then? Candidates will drop out, as Rick Perry did this week. A lot more candidates still have to drop out. So I tend to be one of those people who keeps a cool head about things and says, just listen, learn, probe, ask questions, read as much as you can, and relax. You don't have to back somebody now. You don't have to put all your eggs in one basket at this point.
Yeah, I don't need so much a person, but I don't know. Some issues just seem like they're clobbering people over the heads. Like immigration seems like one that if you get a really cohesive, clear thinking, articulate point laid out, I think some people would say, hey, yeah, that makes sense as compared with what I'm watching happen. But anyway, that's just one issue that gets under my skin regularly.
Hi, Scott. This is Lori Medina.
Hey, Lori.
Hi. Hey, my question is for you. You guys really got big and grew huge at the beginning of the Tea Party movement, what I would call the modern grassroots conservative movement. Early on, a lot of the people who were involved in the movement, many of them had never voted, had never really done any kind of activism whatsoever. And so many of them have kind of grown up, and you all have been part of that. What is your motivation, and how do you want to inspire, and what do you want people to take away from PJTV and carry forward in this movement that we're in?
Oh, I was kind of one of those people, Lori. I was actually invited to speak at some of the early Tea Party gatherings in my area, and about that time, I think it was after the 2008 election, and you kept thinking that things were going to turn around, and then that election result came in, and you thought, maybe things aren't going to turn around,
right.
And maybe just sitting back and sniping from the sidelines isn't enough. And so it was at that point that I decided to run for local office. And then about the same time, Rick Santelli did his big rant on CNBC, and they wound up having these meetings.
Mm-hmm.
And so I actually spoke, standing on a marble bench in the rain on those first Tea Party speeches.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's been a lot of maturation that's happened.
Yeah.
I mean, early on, people were just, they were just sick of being taxed so much and getting so little from their government, or being, just seeing their money redistributed in ways that are destructive to the country. I think because of the Tea Party movement, a lot of people started thinking about the Constitution. I mean, Debbie mentioned that, the anniversary of the day that the Constitution came out of the convention. Of course, that's not the day that it really became the Constitution. James Madison said at that time, until it's ratified, it's a dead letter. And so it went through that whole ratification debate process. And the reason I mention that is because I did a 20-part series on PJTV called Freedom's Charter. And if you remember, you can see that. And it's just basically the story behind the writing of the Constitution. Well, the reason I did that whole series was the Tea Party movement got me interested in the Constitution.
Mm-hmm.
And I started reading the Federalist Papers, then I read the Anti-Federalist Papers, and I've since read several dozen big, fat books all about why the Constitution is written the way it is. I think the Tea Party movement has had a great salutary effect on the country, but I don't think that it's really resulted in the kind of unified organization required to turn elections.
Yep.
On a national level.
We're all nodding as you're speaking. Yep.
Yes, definitely. Well, with your videos, how do you want to change that, or how do you want to inspire people to come together better, or what do you think?
For example, Freedom's Charter is a good example of it, because I realized how ignorant I was. Because I literally got the idea to do Freedom's Charter video series when one day I was talking to somebody and I was mouthing off about the Constitution, and this little voice inside my head went, "What do you, Scott Ott, really know about the Constitution? You blowhard. You have no idea what you're talking about." And I thought, yeah, you're right, little internal voice. What do I really know? And so that motivated me to learn. I really think that the best thing that can happen at this point, while we have to, pay attention to what's happening at the national level, I think the real change is actually going to bubble up rather than trickle down. And I think that means that, people who are listening to this show ought to be seriously thinking about, can I run for my local school board? Can I run in my local township or county office? And I eventually got elected and served as a county commissioner. And it's amazing, in that role, we had an opportunity to say no to like $1 million federal grant. And that had never been done at the county level. And we said, look, this is a waste of money. Why should some woman in Seattle, Washington, have to pay for something that we should be able to take care of ourselves in eastern Pennsylvania at the time? So if you start getting involved in local politics, you'll be amazed at the impact that you can have. All the people who are upset about Common Core, get elected to your local school board.
Excellent.
Not just on the Common Core issue, but on, to serve your community. And I think if we get enough people who really love liberty engaged at the local level, eventually Congress and the president and the courts will wake up.
We're all nodding. Too bad you can't see us. Yeah,
Amen.
We're so with you.
Scott, this is Maury Sullivan. I have a personal question. Are you a new person to come to Texas? You live in Texas now. What brought you here?
Well, because there are roughly 1,200 people a week moving to Texas, I'm no longer new. but we moved here last June, so we've been here a little bit over a year. And I tell people, they say, "Well, are you getting adjusted yet?" I said, I felt at home the day I arrived.
That's so true.
Welcome,
Texans
welcome.
are so friendly. They're
That's
so
how
friendly.
we felt, too.
That's awesome.
Yeah. We, this is Debbie, my husband and I moved here with our kids in the year 2000, and we had that same feeling. It's like we just came home.
It was funny because in our first week here, I was sitting at an intersection, and some guy gets out of his truck behind me and comes running up and taps on my window. I'm like, uh-oh. And so I cracked the window a little bit, and he goes, "Hey, sir, one of your taillights is out. It's the driver's side."
Oh, that's so Texas.
I was like, oh, my goodness. Now, I will tell you that as friendly as everybody I've met, especially north of Dallas, as friendly as everybody is, when that light turns green, you punch it, baby.
That's right, or you get run over.
That's so funny.
But that's a good thing, yeah.
Scott, I also wanted to say that Instapundit is my favorite blog. I get on Drudge first thing in the morning, got to check Matt. Then I'm checking on Glenn Reynolds and all the writers at Instapundit.
Glenn Reynolds is amazing. He got together with me a couple of years ago now, I guess, when I first started doing scrappleface.com, the political satire website, and I happened to be down in Tennessee where he lives, and I contacted him. I said, "Hey, could I meet you?" And so we got together at a bookstore and sat around and talked for a while. Instapundit is largely responsible for the success of PJ Media, PJ TV, scrappleface.com, and in fact, I was so excited. I just put this on my Facebook page. Ed Driscoll posted something to Instapundit today. Scott Ott had the quote of the day.
Oh, yay.
Yay.
And so that's me. And so we just did a show about this feminist choir that changed the words to an old gospel song and replaced Jesus with Hillary. And so Ed Driscoll liked my quote from the end of the show.
We talked about that. I think that was up last week on our Facebook page. We talked about that. That mentality is like, I'm sure you recall, Scott, several years ago, there were elementary school choirs singing, they weren't gospel songs, but singing like public school choirs singing about Obama and praising the leader. It's kind of creepy.
Well, it's one of the evidences for the existence of God, in my mind, is the fact that the people who feel like they have to get God off of the throne know that they have to put somebody on the throne.
Exactly.
There has to be something there because, that's the way God set things up.
Right.
There needs to be an ultimate authority, and if it can't be God, they need to put some earthly authority on there. And unfortunately, all of those earthly authorities are broken, sinful scumbags like me.
Well, we are speaking with Scott Ott, and we need to wrap up this segment. But first of all, I'm so glad you called in. And also, would you take a moment and just tell our listeners all the ways they can find you online? Because Scott Ott, your satire is brilliant. Sometimes it takes me a second to get it, but your satire is brilliant. Your commentaries are brilliant. If you would just share with our listeners how to find you.
Yeah, sometimes I don't get it myself. You can go to scrappleface.com is where my satire website is. If you Google Scott Ott, a lot of things will come up. PJ Media, PJ TV. I have a YouTube channel at Scott Ott. It's SCOTTOTT. So pretty much I'm the most famous Scott Ott in the world.
Okay, fair enough.
It's a very small niche.
Scott Ott, thank you for calling the Ladies Can We Talk. So appreciate having you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And we're going to zip off to our break. This is Debbie Georgatos, Maury Sullivan, Lori Medina on 660 AM The Answer. Ladies, Can We Talk?